A clue lost for years, and now a new piece of evidence emerges that could change everything in the Madeleine McCann case. Is it possible that this piece is the key to finally solving the mystery? Discover the shocking details and hidden secrets that may never have been revealed. If you enjoy unraveling mysteries like this and want to follow our darkest investigations, subscribe to the channel now and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any details of our upcoming cases. Want to be part of the most exclusive circle of our investigations? Become a channel member and gain access to exclusive content and deeper discussions about the darkest mysteries. Many years after Madeleine McCann's disappearance, a mystery still persists. Are there clues that may have been ignored, mistakes made in the early hours that theories have emerged, suspects have been investigated and dismissed, and once again, the case seems to return to the starting point. But what if, from the beginning, a crucial piece of evidence was right in front of us and was never considered? Imagine an investigation with so many flaws and gaps that it overlooked what could have been the key to solving the mystery. After years of investigation and theories circulating in the Madeleine McCann case, a mystery still persists. What if important clues that could make a difference were ignored or not thoroughly investigated from the start? Today, there is a point that continues to bother investigators and specialists. A series of pieces of evidence and testimonies that, for various reasons, were set aside. We're not talking about dramatic twists, but subtle details, such as the first witnesses who reported seeing a person carrying a child that night, inconsistencies in the timings, or even objects in the apartment that were never explained. Over the years, these clues were lost amidst inconclusive investigations, and many wonder, what would have happened if each of these pieces of evidence had been examined with the necessary rigor? Another point that has always been in the background is the media pressure. From the beginning, the coverage was massive, and the pressure to obtain immediate answers affected how the case was handled, with rushed investigations, public distrust, and conflicting versions. For many, this exposure helped keep the case alive, but it also brought challenges that still complicate any attempt at a solution. And now, with the passing of years, could new technological advances open previously inaccessible paths? Modern forensic analysis techniques, which were not available in 2007, could they reveal something in the old records? Over the years, the Madeleine McCann case has become a real patchwork, full of contradictions and different versions. Doubts began almost from the first moment when the Portuguese authorities were called to the site. The issue of the break-in, for example, is one of the first points that raised doubt. The window of the bedroom where Madeleine was supposedly sleeping was open when her mother discovered the disappearance. Kate McCann stated that she found the window that way, which led her to believe that someone had entered the room. However, in the police's analysis, no signs of forced entry or marks that the window or door had been forced were found. This detail raised a question that remains to this day. If there was no break-in, how did someone enter the apartment? This contradiction was one of the first factors that raised suspicions and put the investigation on a confusing path. If there were no signs of forced entry, how could a child simply disappear? And while the Portuguese police tried to understand what had happened, the media began to cover the case intensely, with reporters analyzing every minute detail of the location, the actions of the family, and the friends who were with them. This ended up bringing even more confusion, as many versions began to circulate, and the pressure to solve the case increased. Another point that was never fully clarified is the account of the witnesses that night. A family friend, Jane Tanner, claimed to have seen a man carrying a child near the McCann's apartment around 9:30 p.m. She described the man as a Caucasian-looking individual of average height and dark hair. For many, this description seemed to be a concrete clue, but others claim that this sighting was never really proven. Some local witnesses couldn't remember seeing someone like that in the area, and the police themselves questioned the validity of this account, considering it uncertain. Still, this testimony ended up diverting the investigation to the possibility of a kidnapping by an external individual, which made the case even more complex. Additionally, the dynamics between the Portuguese police and the British police also brought inconsistencies that complicated the investigation. The British police, who were called sometime later to review the case, had a different approach from the Portuguese police. While the Portuguese considered the possibility of a covered domestic accident, the British police maintained that the main line of investigation should be kidnapping. This conflict between the two police forces created a deadlock where each defended its interpretation and, at times, information was not efficiently shared. This conflict also reflected in the versions about what happened that night, and to this day, some of these divergences have never been fully resolved. Another detail that further fueled doubts was the supposed silence pact among the friends who were with the McCanns. Friends had met before giving formal statements, an action that some interpreted as an attempt to align their versions of events. This led to speculation that the friends might be hiding something, although this version was never proven. The Portuguese Portuguese police themselves mentioned in leaked documents that they believed the group might be keeping secrets about what really happened that night, but without conclusive evidence. This idea remained just another theory amidst the whirlwind of conflicting information. And there's one more issue that has always attracted attention: the use of sniffer dogs during the investigation. The dogs, who were brought to the apartment months after the disappearance, reacted to possible traces of blood and cadaveric odor in Madeleine's room and in a vehicle rented by the family after the disappearance. For many, this could be an important indicator. However, since these traces could never be confirmed with precise DNA tests, the search result was considered inconclusive. Even so, this detail raised more doubts about what could have happened that night and to what extent the version presented so far was really reliable. The contradictions don't stop there. There's also the issue of the timeline. The family and the friends who were with them stated that they checked on the children every half hour. But in some reports, the timings of the checks seem confusing and do not follow a clear pattern. There were moments when, according to testimonies, there was a longer interval between checks, which opens the possibility that Madeleine disappeared earlier than initially reported. This lapse in time is an important point because in a disappearance investigation, every minute counts, and a simple difference of half an hour can be crucial to understanding the sequence of events. Another aspect that caught attention was the behavior of the media, which covered the case intensely and sometimes sensationalistically. In the early days, many journalists focused only on the kidnapping hypothesis and ignored other possibilities. This not only influenced public opinion, but also created enormous pressure on the authorities, who in many moments found themselves pressured to follow a line of investigation to satisfy expectations. And, as we know, rushed investigations do not always produce solid results. To this day, these inconsistencies remain without clear answers. And what began as an attempt to discover what happened to Madeleine has turned into a puzzle of theories and conflicting versions. Each contradictory point became part of a complex case that, despite all efforts, never managed to provide definitive answers. Over the years, the Madeleine McCann case has brought up various theories and speculations about what could have happened that night. Each new idea, each possibility, was investigated or considered by police and specialists, and many of them still remain without a definitive answer. Let's take a closer look at some of these theories, understand what led them to gain strength, and why, in the end, none of them managed to truly solve the mystery. One of the first theories raised was that Madeleine had been kidnapped by a stranger. This hypothesis gained strength early on, mainly because of Jane Tanner's account, a family friend who said she saw a man carrying a child near the apartment. Her description was vague, but still, many believed she had seen Madeleine's kidnapper. This detail propelled the idea that the girl had been taken by an unknown person. However, over time, this eyewitness began to be questioned, as other people at the location couldn't confirm the presence of this man. The Portuguese police also started to view this testimony with some skepticism, considering that Tanner's sighting could have been influenced by the pressure of the case itself. Still, the stranger kidnapping theory was never completely dismissed. The hypothesis was based on the idea that Praia da Luz, being a tourist destination frequented by people from various parts of the world, could also attract ill-intentioned individuals. Over the years, some cases of foreign pedophiles who passed through nearby regions or had related criminal histories emerged in the investigations, reinforcing the possibility that Madeleine had been targeted by someone with that profile. However, in none of these cases was concrete evidence found linking these suspects to the girl's disappearance. Another theory that circulated a lot, especially in the early stages of the investigation, was the possibility of a domestic accident. Some people believe that Madeleine could have suffered some kind of accident inside the apartment while her parents were out. This theory suggests that instead of a crime, the disappearance could have been the result of a tragic event that, for some reason, increased when the sniffer dogs, brought to the site months later, indicated the presence of blood traces and odors that could be associated with a corpse. These indications brought more attention to the possibility that something had happened to the girl inside the apartment. However, this theory also faces significant challenges. Madeleine's parents always denied any involvement in the disappearance and stated that they were simply out of the apartment for dinner, something many parents do on vacation trips. Moreover, the evidence detected by the sniffer dogs was never confirmed in a laboratory, making it impossible to prove that the traces were indeed related to Madeleine. The accident theory over time became became increasingly contested, especially when other clues began to emerge. The third theory, which gained strength mainly with the British police's involvement in the case, was that Madeleine could have been a victim of a child trafficking network. This hypothesis was based on the fact that Europe, unfortunately, has recorded several cases of children being kidnapped for illegal adoption or exploitation. Some specialists even mentioned that Praia da Luz could be an attractive location for this type of criminal activity, as it is a tourist destination with a high flow of people from different countries, which would facilitate movement without drawing attention. This theory also gained credibility when a series of sightings of children resembling Madeleine were reported in different locations, even on other continents. Although none of these sightings were confirmed, each new clue kept the idea alive that the girl could have been taken out of Portugal and handed over to third parties. But over time, these clues proved unfounded, and the police couldn't track any criminal network that could be involved in Madeleine's case. Finally, a theory that has gained more attention in recent years is the possible failure in the initial investigations. As time passed, questions began to arise about how the disappearance scene was handled by the Portuguese authorities in the early hours. The lack of isolation of the site and the entry and exit of people shortly after the disappearance raised suspicions that important evidence could have been lost. This theory was strengthened as former investigators and specialists pointed out the possibility that if the first hours had been conducted more rigorously, perhaps the investigation would have taken a different path. Recently, a new revelation caught everyone by surprise and brought a new perspective to the Madeleine McCann case. Years after the disappearance, a document that was archived, almost forgotten, was revisited. In it, an intriguing record appears. A report from a witness that was never taken seriously by the authorities at that time. This person, whose identity was preserved for safety, claimed to have seen strange activity that very night, but at a slightly more distant point from where the girl disappeared. According to the account, this witness saw a person standing next to a van. The detail that stood out was the speed with which this person got into the vehicle and started it as soon as they realized they were being watched. At that moment, without understanding the gravity of what was happening, the witness couldn't explain what made them suspicious of the situation, but reported that there was something in the person's expression and gestures that seemed restless, as if they were leaving a place where they shouldn't be. This new document, when retrieved from piles of files, raised a doubt. Who was this person, and why would they be acting suspiciously that night? Additionally, another intriguing discovery connects Madeleine's disappearance to other cases of child kidnappings in Europe that occurred in years close to hers and under similar circumstances. In some of these cases, children disappeared during trips or in vacation spots, just like Madeleine. Investigators who analyzed these cases noticed that, in certain situations, a van or a similar vehicle was seen near the location, always with a person acting strangely or maintaining a calculated distance, observing discreetly. This brings up the possibility that Madeleine's case is part of a larger pattern, perhaps linked to a specific group. Another unexpected point that shook the narrative was the location of some notes in the house of a person suspected of crimes in the region. During a search, the police found a notebook with names of various European localities, with notes about resorts and tourist areas. Among these notes, there was a reference to Praia da Luz in the period of May 2007, the month and year of Madeleine's disappearance. Although the annotation was vague, the reference caught attention for coinciding with the exact moment of the case. What would a person with a criminal background be doing with this? In the security camera records of a city near Praia da Luz, a car similar to the one described by the mysterious witness was captured in the road monitoring system. The image isn't perfectly clear, but it's possible to see a vehicle with similar characteristics speeding down the road, as if trying to leave the area without being identified. This detail raised even more questions. Could this same car have been used to take Madeleine away from Portugal that very night? These new revelations brought a wave of hope to the case, but also frustration. How did these details remain forgotten for so long? How were so many crucial clues ignored or never followed up with the necessary seriousness? This new perspective now opens doors to lines of investigation that previously seemed impossible, and the case that everyone believed had reached a deadlock gains new momentum, with the possibility of finally finding a definitive answer. The Madeleine McCann case leaves us with many questions and few answers. The new discoveries shed a little more light on a mystery that seemed buried in forgotten clues and incomplete investigations. But there is still much to be unraveled. After all, do these new details bring us closer to the truth, or do they just show us how much we still don't know? It's a reminder that no matter how much we try to understand the human mind, some shadows remain difficult to dissipate, and not every monster hides in the shadows. And you, mystery hunter, do you believe that these clues can really lead us to a definitive answer? If you've watched this far, comment, "I am a mystery hunter, so I know you stayed with us until the end of this investigation." Your opinion is essential for making this a space for for questioning and seeking answers. To not miss our upcoming videos, subscribe now and help uncover the darkest secrets of the human mind. And if you have a topic you'd like to see here on the channel, leave your suggestion in the comments. Who knows, your idea might appear in the next video. Did you enjoy the mystery and want to support our work? Use Valo Demai to contribute and have your comment highlighted, helping to keep our dark investigations always active. Mystery hunters, we want to know what piques your curiosity the most. Is there a dark case or a mystery you'd like to see here on the channel? Leave your suggestion in the comments, and who knows, it might become our next investigation. Your idea could be the key to a new enigma. If you enjoyed this mystery, don't miss the next video, where we'll delve even deeper into a story that will stir your emotions and challenge everything you think you know. Click now and join me in this next investigation. In the next video, we'll dive even deeper into a mystery that promises to bring shocking revelations. Stay tuned, because evil may be closer than you think. Until the next investigation.